In the past 100 years, the ancient city of Gaza and its surrounds have been ruled by the Ottoman Empire, Britain, Egypt, and Israel. Home to 2 million Palestinians, many of them refugees, it's one of the world's most densely populated areas. It is now self-governed by the Islamist militant group, Hamas, designated a terrorist organization by several countries, which has launched a brutal attack on Israel in recent days. The town of Gaza dates back to ancient times, controlled for a period by the Romans. Gaza's port was once a busy trading hub.
Online fraud is today's most common crime. Victims are often told they are foolish for falling for it, but fraudsters use psychological mechanisms to infiltrate the defenses of their targets, regardless of how intelligent. Consumer Protection Magazine, which identified some of the most convincing scams of 2023. These scams all have one thing in common: they insidiously take advantage of people's cognitive biases and psychological blind spots. In our work as fraud psychology researchers, we have noticed a trend towards hybrid scams, which combine different types of fraud.
The problem with trashing those items is that electronics often contain hazardous materials like lead or mercury that might leach out of landfills to contaminate soil and water. Hoarding the devices at home isn't ideal either. If those items were recycled instead, manufacturers could recover literal gold and other precious materials. That cuts down e-waste and potentially. While discarded appliances and computers have posed problems for decades, the new analysis shines a light on often overlooked trends that have grown into a global mess. Disposable vapes are everywhere.
Vapes, like other rechargeable devices that wind up in the trash, are a waste of lithium, a key battery mineral that the world is going to need a lot of to transition to cleaner energy and transportation. Millions of electronic cigarettes are being thrown away in a dustbin every single week. It's an issue of great concern, Forum Director General Pascal Leroy said in the press briefing. Responsibility laws and the recycling infrastructure needed to responsibly take apart discarded products and mine them for valuable materials. The collection rate for e-waste globally is just 17%.
The article, to which BuzzFeed added a disclaimer before taking it down entirely, offered an unintentionally striking example of the biases and stereotypes that proliferate in images produced by the recent wave of generative AI text-to-image systems. Bias occurs in many algorithms and AI systems, from sexist and racist search results to facial recognition systems that perform worse on black faces. Generative AI systems are no different. Bloomberg found that images associated with higher-paying job titles featured people with lighter skin tones.
Browsing came about as a result of changing material conditions, but it was also a natural extension of a philosophy of curious leisure and an aesthetic of exploratory idyll popularized in the 1800s. An urban wanderer and watcher, at once detached from and attuned to the newly industrialized environment, sprang from the literary imagination of the era. Baudelaire describes the flaneur as a passionate spectator and speaks of the experience of wanting to be away from home and yet to feel oneself everywhere at home, to see the world.
The Nest Learning thermostat may have grabbed all the headlines when it launched in 2011 and kickstarted the current home automation trend. Now, Ecobee is betting on expanding its ecosystem by launching a smart video doorbell, enhancing its affordable smart security system, and leaning further into smart home energy management. In the decade or so since the two companies launched overpowered thermostats that held so much promise for the smart home, they have gone down drastically different paths. Original product has matured into a fine vintage.
It has radically upended how we've understood and interacted with our world. It has demolished traditional barriers and empowered millions who were previously marginalized. It has created vast new sectors of our economy while devastating legacy institutions. It is often dismissed by traditionalists as a vacant fad, and in fact it is the greatest and most disruptive change in modern capitalism. Lorenz practically invented the influencer beat, consistently clobbering competitors by chronicling the movement's innovators and wannabes.
Hiring executive assistants was once the privilege of CEOs. Today, artificial intelligence can be anyone's executive assistant. If you need help with administrative tasks, here's how to use ChatGPT as your personal assistant. Dealing with overflowing email inboxes can be overwhelming, especially for remote workers. ChatGPT can come to the rescue by assisting with various email-related tasks. Masterclasses, courses, and certifications are now available online. But if you need a more personalized approach,
David Chalmers was not expecting the invitation he received in September of last year. As a leading authority on consciousness, Chalmers regularly circles the world delivering talks at universities and academic meetings to rapt audiences of philosophers, the sort of people who might spend hours debating whether the world outside their own heads is real and then go blithely about the rest of their day. This latest request, though, came from a surprising source: the organizers of the Conference on Neural Information Processing Systems.